Eileen Jiu says she's been physically assaulted over representing China instead of US at Olympics. Eileen Jiu has sparked controversy over her decision to represent China instead of the United States. Born in San Francisco, Jiu made the decision in 2019 to compete for China and defended her choice ahead of this year's Olympic Games. Gu's mother was born in China and earned her master's degree there. The decision has garnered backlash online and on camera from numerous figures. However, Jiu recently claimed that some have taken it too far, including being physically assaulted on the street. The police were called. "I've had death threats. I've had my dorm robbed," Jiu told The Athletic. "I've gone through some things as a 22-year-old that I really think no one should ever have to endure, ever." Vice President J.D. Vance said on Fox News Channel on Wednesday that he would hope that someone who was born in the U.S. would want to represent the U.S. "I certainly think that someone who grew up in the United States of America, who benefited from our education system, from the freedoms and liberties that makes this country a great place, I would hope they want to compete with the United States of America," Vance said on The Story with Martha McCallum. "So, I'm going to root for American athletes. I think part of that is people who identify themselves as Americans. That's who I'm rooting for in this Olympics." Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom took it a step further, calling Jiu a traitor. Kanter has been outspoken against China, its alleged human rights abuses, and the NBA for its ties to the country. "She was born in America. She was raised in America, lives in America, and chooses to compete against her own country for, literally, the worst human rights abuser on the planet, China. She built her fame in a free country and then chooses to represent an authoritarian regime," Freedom said. "She chose to play for a country that is literally responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of its own people and literally running a concentration camp while we talking," Freedom said, comparing Gu's silence on the issue to LeBron James declining a question about China's alleged human rights abuses in 2019. Jiu is the most decorated female Olympic freestyle skier of all time, but has come up just short in Milan, settling for 2 silver medals. She won 2 golds in Beijing. Eileen Jiu, Snow, Identity, and the Strains of Global Allegiance. In a world where sports are supposed to unite, the story of Eileen Jiu, the American-born freestyle skier representing China, has become a flashpoint for political, cultural, and emotional conflict. Her path to Olympic glory has not only been one of unmatched athletic success, but also a deeply personal and, at times, dangerous journey through identity politics, public scrutiny, and international scrutiny that goes far beyond the slopes of Milano Cortina. At 22, Jiu has already rewritten history. She is the most decorated female freestyle skier in Olympic history, with gold and silver medals from both the 2022 Beijing Games and the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy. Born and raised in San Francisco to an American father and a Chinese mother, she chose in 2019 to compete for China, a decision rooted in her desire to inspire young Chinese athletes and promote skiing in a country with far fewer role models in winter sports. Yet that decision has transformed her life in ways few athletes ever experience. The price of crossing lines. In interviews with The Athletic and various news outlets, Jiu revealed that her choice to represent China sparked an intense backlash in the United States, including violent encounters. She said she was physically assaulted on the street near her campus at Stanford University, where she was enrolled as a student, leading to police being called to the scene. But the harassment didn't stop there. Jiu also reported death threats. Messages threatening her life arrived with alarming frequency. A dorm room robbery. Her personal space at Stanford was violated, a traumatic violation that compounded the fear she already carried. Emotional strain and isolation. Beyond the physical dangers, Jiu spoke about the psychological toll of feeling hunted simply for a choice rooted in identity and ambition. In her own words, "She has gone through some things as a 22-year-old that I really think no one should ever have to endure, ever." Why the controversy? Identity, perception, and politics. To many sports fans and commentators, Gu's decision was not just an athletic allegiance, it was a symbolic act entangled with geopolitics. Her refusal to compete for the United States, the country of her birth and upbringing, was viewed by critics through the lens of global rivalry between the US and China. Some prominent figures openly challenged her choice. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance suggested that American-born athletes who benefit from the country's opportunities should represent the U.S. during the Olympics, implying that Gu should have worn the stars and stripes instead of the Chinese uniform. Other critics went further. Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom publicly branded Gu a traitor, attacking her decision not for its athletic merit, but for what he described as a moral failure to uphold American identity. These debates underscored a broader tension. In a globalized world, can an athlete's personal identity transcend national boundaries, or will nationalism always demand strict loyalty? For many athletes, competing for a nation is a matter of heritage, opportunity, and personal growth. But for some critics, Gu's Chinese representation wasn't merely a sporting choice. It was a rejection of American identity, intertwined with fears about China as a geopolitical rival. The human behind the headlines. Amid all the noise, it's essential to remember that Eileen Gu is first a person, not a geopolitical symbol. Her decision to represent China came when she was just 15, a teenager with a unique worldview shaped by two cultures. She later explained that her goal was not political posturing but to inspire millions of young people, especially girls, in a country with far fewer winter sports role models. Gu has repeatedly stated that she is proud of both her American upbringing and her Chinese heritage, saying that she feels American when she's in the US and Chinese when she's in China. Such dual identity is increasingly common in an interconnected world, but it can create powerful emotional responses when viewed through traditional frames of national loyalty. The assault, threats, and harassment she faced reveal not just political disagreement. They show the dark underbelly of how public figures, especially women and people of multicultural backgrounds, can become targets of hatred. Whenever an athlete upholds their individuality in the face of pressure, they risk becoming a punching bag for larger cultural anxieties. Gu herself has described feeling that way amid the backlash, that she has become a symbol of debate rather than purely a competitor. The dual edge of fame and scrutiny. Gu's experiences also reflect how fame amplifies every word and action. As one of the most marketable athletes in the world, with endorsement deals worth millions and a global media presence, she is being watched from every angle. As her athletic success soared, so too did the intensity of public